Well, most of you that have seen my videos and everything have for sure seen this boat going up and down the rivers and everywhere else. Well, but you've never actually seen the details of the boat, the interior of it. So today, this video, we're going to do a walk around the Aluma jet, or as we call it, the 410. I'll just show you a few things in it, so stay tuned. First, as you notice, the trailer is all aluminum, I-beam. It was originally a trailer for like a 21-foot center console boat. It used to be about 5 foot longer. I cut it down, modified it, fish plated it, where I notched and bent it to make it to make the A-frame a little shorter for a 16-foot boat. And this is a 16-foot Duracraft 1648 SV, manufactured in 1997, so the boat is 24 years old this year. The only original structural part of the old Duracraft is this front platform. Everything else has changed, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And the first obvious difference is that this is not an outboard, nor is it a jet outboard. It is a jet inboard. And it's a Yamaha MR1 FX high output. 170 horsepower at 10,000 RPMs. The jet unit is back in here. You can't really see it that well from there, but the drivetrain is a Yamaha XL 1200 bolt-in aluminum pump and housing. The steering nozzle and reverse gate's back here, and the control for that is right here. Right now it's in reverse. That's neutral. That's forward. And basically all it does is it just lifts that gate up. Another feature is this is not a standard type intake grate. This is a Stomp Grate. I'll show you how it works. This is the control lever right here. Push that lever down. And it drops half of the bars on that stainless grate. That way if you have weeds or gravel or anything else in between them, it clears it. So that's, and then you pull the lever back up to retract it. So like I said, that one there is forward, neutral, reverse. And the great thing about it versus an outboard is there's no gears to engage. So you can vary the amount, like if you're trolling for flounder, you can vary the amount of forward momentum that the boat has just by a slight adjustment of that lever. There's no constantly having to bump in and out of gear like with an outboard. That's a real pain in the ass. So anyway, this one here is the throttle. And looking at everything up here, this is our emergency cutoff switch, kill switch lanyard attachment. That's a stop button. There's our ignition and also stop. Cigarette lighter plug. Nav lights. Bilge pump. Or actually, should I say bilge pumps, because this boat does not have one. It does not have two. It does not have three. This boat has 4 bilge pumps capable of pumping 3,500 gallons per hour. So, and 2 of them are underneath the deck here. The red and white one there pumps 1,100. The smaller one underneath that strainer back there pumps 500. So that's 1,600 gallons an hour off the deck here. And then there's 2 more back in the bilge. There's an 800 on this side, and there's an 1,100 on this side, which is also controlled by a float switch, just like the one on the deck. And so that's 1,900 out of the engine compartment. So if you get swamped in this boat, you hit your bilge pumps, it'll get out of here pretty quick. That's the blower for the engine compartment. That operates the prow lights. Talk about that in just a second. This is the no wake mode. Press and hold that for 2 seconds, and it's like a cruise control for fast idle. It holds the boat at 2,400 RPMs. It's for going through no wake zones. Like I said, basically it's just a fast idle. So like I said, these are our prow lights right here. And they are MR16 LEDs that are the equivalent of 55 watt halogens, but they only draw like 1 amp. Here in the forward deck, we have our anchor compartment. And the way I design my hatches, there's no hinges or anything like that. You just lift the rear edge and slide back and take the whole hatch cover off. Because I use a little channel like that on the front edge, so it slips under that edge there, and then when you drop it down, it stays locked. I've never lost a hatch cover, and I've been hundreds of miles on the highways. Anyway, so our anchor's in there with 100 feet of rope. Like I said, to close the hatch cover, you just do that. See, front edge can't come up. And I like that design because hinges, especially like aluminum piano hinges, they seize, especially in salt water, and then they're useless. Then you bend up your hatch cover trying to get it open and tear the hinge up and everything else. And sometimes the hatch cover itself gets in the way when you're trying to do something, so it's easier to be able to take it off. Down here is our life jacket storage, as well as rope storage. And when I say rope storage, I mean like lots of rope. And if you notice, it's all daisy chained. And if you've seen my previous video of why I keep my lines daisy chained, you'll understand why they're like that, because they deploy faster. So anyway, got a lot of rope here, and I'm going to show you another reason why I have so much rope here in just a second. Now, as for the reason why I have all the rope, let me show you something. Dry box here, and this right here stores underneath my seat. As you can see, there's a center pin and then a locking pin with 3 corresponding holes so that it can lock center, right, or left. I'm going to show you why that is in just a second. So here you go. 2,000-pound winch with a controller there and hooked into our battery over here. Now let me just say that all the running that I've done in this boat, all the inland rivers and everywhere, I have never got it stuck on an inland river, thank God. The only place I've ever got it stuck is out here in the inlet, and just basically there you wait on the tide to float you off. But on an inland river, 100 miles from home, no boats in sight, if I ever did run aground, God forbid, yeah, my butthole would be probably gnawing that seat cushion into a pyramid. But in the unlikely event it happens, I can always spool out some line, take some of that rope that I've got in that forward compartment up there, wade out or swim out to the nearest tree or boulder, whatever, tie off to it, and then you can see that's set for the center. Well, let's say I'm off to the left side a little bit. We'll see. I just pick that plate up and rotate it around and drop that locking pin in place so that I can control the direction of the pull on this thing, either right, left, or center. I've never had to use it, and I hope I never have to, but there it is. So anyhow, the winch stores in this nifty little dry box that fits underneath my seat up there. And my base plate stores underneath the console up there. Now you're probably wondering, well, why did you put it on that base plate? Why not just mount it straight to that? And again, like I said, adjustment. Plus, This faceplate here accepts other accessories. I'll show them right here. One of them is a water skiing pole. Goes up it's about 5 foot tall, and then it's got side braces that run and connect to the gunnels of the boat. Another one is a towing bit. Another accessory I got is a camera pole. It's about 20 foot long, and put a GoPro on it up there on the top of it and have it angled down. Gets pretty good aerial footage of the boat running along, and that's what I did before I got a drone. Now that I have the drone, the camera pole doesn't really get used as much anymore. And our rear boarding platform attaches with the bolts. Sacrificial anode. Speedometer, depth finder. Boat pretty much has all the bells and whistles. Rod holders. Oh, and that right there is a strainer. That runs between the jet unit and the engine. At a glance, I can tell if I'm picking up trash like seaweed, gravel, sand, whatever. This screen will trap it and keep my engine from running hot. And you just unscrew it and tap the screen out, clean it, put it back together and go. And the way I know if anything is clogged is right there. That's a water pressure gauge. And I know what it's supposed to be at certain RPMs. For instance, if I'm running at 7,000 RPMs, that water pressure should be at about 10. When I crank it on up closer to 10,000, that climbs up to 15. If there's any fluctuation in those numbers, then I know something's up. I've got a clog or something, and so I stop and check my strainer. So as we mentioned, the battery is down in this one, under this hatch here. And this one has access to the starboard fuel tank. Also store a couple little rod holders in there. And this one uses, that one there just pushes straight down, but this one here is like the front anchor well. It uses my that push forward and lock down the rear design, just like the front anchor well uses. Like I said, never lost a hatch cover yet. Now this side over here, the hatches are removable, but they're screwed down because there's really no need to be opening this up, because this side over here is the fuel tank and the fuel pump. And this is the port side tank. And then back here, you open this up and the muffler system is back there. Now you're probably asking, well, why is there a tank on the starboard and the port? Well, originally when this boat had a 2-stroke engine in it, that's the way I had it, except both tanks were situated to the rear, and they had a selector valve where when the right tank run out, you could go to the left tank. Well, when I put the 4-stroke in here, the 4-stroke has an electric fuel pump, and the pump is like $500. And the tank actually had to be modified for the flange for that pump to fit into it. So only one tank has a fuel pump in it. So now that probably raises your question, well, how do you get the fuel from the starboard tank to the port tank? And the answer is simple. There's a vent going in, and the vent line has a check valve that only lets air go in that way. Between the two fuel tanks is an equalizer hose that lets fuel flow from this starboard tank to the port tank. The out vent is over here with a check valve that only lets air go out. So heat and expansion as you're running warms up the engine compartment and the fuel tanks, and it causes the heat to expand, makes the gas flow from starboard to port. So in other words, that tank there can be completely run down, and this tank, then it starts pulling from this tank here. That's how it works. So that way you don't run out of gas in this tank here and you're still full in that one. the check valves assures that that doesn't happen. Right there is our blower for the engine compartment. Also, when you're running, that acts like an intake scoop, forces air in. Air can exit right here out above the fuel tank. As you can see, we have a swing back seat here with 3 positions. So you can go forward like that for a leaning post, so you lean against that while you're running. You can pull it to the middle position and sit on it like a regular seat. Like that. Or you can lay it all the way back like that, depending on how you're running. A lot of times I'm standing up when I run this boat. So we got our windshield right here with our grab rail. There's supposed to be a mirror here. I broke it, packing it into the garage. I've got a new one ordered. 2 bolts on either side, so a total of 4 bolts holds this windshield on. This windshield is removable. I also have a T-top that goes on here that has a full height windshield that goes all the way up to the top of it, and the windshield actually slides down so you can get a little bit of opening or more opening for more airflow, so it keeps the rain off of you, and in the wintertime it's pretty warm. Our safety gear is all on board, throwable here with daisy chain line, fire extinguisher, whistle, flare gun in the box under the console, life jackets in the bow. As you can see, the boat has a diamond plate false bottom in it, and this cover here that runs along the sides, that's for the wiring harnesses and control cables, so everything is basically wrapped on this, so there's nothing really exposed. Gives it a nice clean look. So basically everything on this boat except for the engine and the drivetrain and the gauges I built, including this console. You can see she's got 516 hours on her. Yamaha high output gauges. So basically that's a rundown of the boat. Figured I'd do a walk around on it while all the paint on it is still fresh and new before I nastied it up. As you can see here, that's 5 coats of Interlux Interprotect 2-part polyamide epoxy. The side here is Interlux Bright Side, and you can see it's nice and gloss. And then the inside is Interlux Hatteras Off-White.